All right, rock and roll. We're recording. So this is week 11, the final week of the structured content. This is a little bit of a miscellaneous topic as far as I'm concerned. So you've got the App Exchange and the other options to extend Salesforce. This should cover out the exam content. And so if we have a look at the productivity and collaboration stage, or the topic in the exam topic, you've got capabilities of activity management. We did cover that a little bit at the start with the standard objects. And then we've got Chatter, mobile app, and App Exchange applications. So none of these really fit nicely into the previous categories. They're handy to know. They're not, I would say that they're not critical, but, from an exam perspective, if you get a question about collaboration on an exam that is talking about Salesforce, probably it does align with the option that Salesforce gives you for collaboration. So if you get a question that asks you about what would you do for collaboration, I would lean strongly towards the answer being Chatter without reading the question. The mobile app capabilities and activity management, worth playing around with, and App Exchange, definitely worth investigating. So from the topics, Salesforce Knowledge was about the only thing that I thought we would cover that didn't really fit into the exam content. Salesforce Knowledge is very handy when it comes to having a portal, so a community or experience cloud, and you want people to find their own answers. So it's a knowledge base that people can search through. It's and it's a great product, really handy when you're getting that knowledge base, exposing it to internal and external users. Not really covered in this exam, covered more in the Service Cloud exam. And in my opinion, probably the biggest area of underutilization on the Salesforce platform. Let's jump into the 4 topics that we have today. So there's some modules there. I really think that if you just do some simple investigation, it's not going to be good enough for an implementation. It will just be good enough using those Trailhead modules for the exam. You will have an awareness, but you won't really know how to use it that well. So activity management. So activity management, I think I added a link. And so having a quick look, I just lost it. So I jumped onto this and I'll just mute it. And because it's an ad, I find ads and thing. But there was a really good slide here that highlighted the different, and so I've just searched using Chatter. So an activity, what are they? They're really for, I can take a screenshot, Clancy, you don't need to photo it. It's, what is an activity? An activity is really about you as a person completing a task, a goal, or something like that. A chatter is really about sharing. So, from a theoretical perspective, without actually seeing it, a task, a record for comments for a customer meeting, whether to face-to-face over the phone, so that you know that what happened at that meeting, you can recall it in detail, create follow-up tasks, record an email. It's all about an individual. So it's all about what you need to do to, complete your task or follow up for that individual. It's not really about that collaboration. So this is really the difference between what does an activity do and what does a chatter post do. what does a chatter post do? It's an internal discussion about a topic, being an opportunity, a product, or something like that. Share files with somebody else, ask questions to get feedback. So if you haven't seen Chatter, it's I'll show you in a moment. However, it looks dated, and the Salesforce did go and spend, I think it was about $3.50 on the Slack acquisition. Roughly translated, that's $27 billion or something US. So it was a couple of bucks. But the view on it is that Chatter helps collaboration. Slack is going to supercharge that. So in the old days of Lotus Notes, you had links. In the internet age, you had hyperlinks. This is all about making sure that people don't leave the platform to go somewhere else to do an activity and then come back. Give them internal links. So what we'll do, okay, so I've just got a link here about activity management, and it really says it allows you to see your own activities, and it's really about that individual perspective. There's a couple of things about being controlled by parent. You can do things like create tasks for groups of people, and if you do that, then an individual task will go to each of those people so that they need to do it. But a task in my head is like a post-it note. It's not really enforceable. You're not going to audit it. You're not really going to follow up too much on it. It's more of a general reminder. If you need something to be formally tracked for a customer, that's when a case comes in. So you can have a look at your what is effectively your to-do list, and they will be activities. But if you're dealing with a customer incident or something formal, that's when it's definitely a case. So let's just close that. And I'm jumping into mobile. So what I will do is I'll jump into Trailhead. I will log in, apologies. And what I'll do is that I'll just turn on, I'll go to one of my hands-on orgs. We'll launch it. And what I'll do is that I'll just jump into Chatter, and the first screen I'm already in the service console from last week. I will just jump into the app launcher. Why is that not working? Just because I keep clicking it. Oh, it's not. There we go. So I'm just going to jump into sales. I'll have a look across the top. So if I look across here, there's Chatter right there. So you can jump into Chatter straight from here. And this, it would look similar to a lot of people. Chatter is one of those things that when people get to use it well, it's very well used, but a lot of organizations, it's a bit clunky. They don't want to use it. So in good environments, sharing links exactly to that record comes in handy. The other place that I would go is that if Chatter wasn't shown on here, I would just click the waffle and Salesforce Chatter. So let's just go straight into the app. And so coming back to what that description said that I showed you before, people, groups, files, discoveries. So if you want to share something with a person, this is where you can do it. These are all the users that I've got in my org. Here are the groups. I probably don't have any. No, I don't. Not sure whether I've got any files to share, but yeah, I can easily share or upload. So probably I won't update anything. But if I go back to Chatter, I could do something like, so I can link that. So you can see that I can add new people in here and new groups. Let's see, security user. I can see that because it's on the right-hand side. So I can just tag people. And you think about this is, Chatter's like 10 years old and Microsoft are using it now in your emails and things like that. It's just those conventions that have been out and about for a long time. You could have a, so Chatter is quite often used for when you are both, everybody is using if you're using like opportunity teams and things like that, where you want to share updates with a group of people and not send them an email, keep it on platform, avoid the amount of emails that people are getting. This is a great opportunity. So I'll just share that. And so I can comment on it, I can like it, I can share it. So, you know, again, this is looking like a very similar format that you probably seen before. You can ask a poll. So where are we going for lunch? You can ask a question and get feedback. So where did Kieran go get his haircut from? You know, like, so it's just those kinds of things that, and you can, you know, use that @ symbol and point it to a particular person, and then it will come up in your notifications and things like that, that you know, that's what's happening. I've only seen it used well in a couple of organizations where you've got like big project teams and things like that. Again, it's something that it will be, I think it's going to be like Classic, where Salesforce Classic is available. However, it's probably going to get phased out. The way that everybody's going to go is down Slack. The Slack option is an upgrade. It's paid option. Therefore, there will be a decision, a commercial decision down the track of, do we keep this for people who want to maintain the free version, but if they want any of the additional features and the fancy stuff, then they go down the Slack route.
When they're rolling out Slack, Kel?
Say again, mate?
You know when they're planning to roll Slack out?
Well, you can get it now, and it can be integrated. So just the same way as, well, we use the API so that when somebody logs a support call, we get that message in Slack. The APIs have been there. The actual way that they want to do it, rolling it out, they had some big announcements in at Dreamforce. So that was what, a month ago, and that was very much about just the same way as here. How do you keep people not going to email and collaborating? So that's where you send out the messages, and on the paid version, you can do things like communicate with people who aren't in your organization. So if you wanted to talk directly to customers, you need that paid version. So you can imagine that if you were trying to resolve a case and you wanted to get more information from whoever that case was about, even if they were a customer and they were external, no license required, you can just add them as a paid user. You can send them an invitation, say, connect with me, and you can start chatting. As long as somebody, the initiator of the invite is on that paid version, that's what they can do. So that's Chatter. So, you know, Chatter, you can do, again, you can do things like add photos. Probably got an Astro photo. That's awesome. You can, yeah, it is just that internal collaboration tool. What else? So I don't think that we really need to cover Chatter that much more for the exam. This area is 7%. I used to think that the percentage for Chatter was like 3%. So you had 1 or 2 questions about Chatter. And from memory, if there was a question where one of the answers was Chatter, that's what I was going to pick. The activity management, you understand now, it's focused on the individual. Chatter is about collaboration. Next, before we go, anybody have any questions? Cool. I'll jump onto the mobile app and then the App Exchange. So mobile app, and forgive me, I don't have a good demo to show you today, but everybody should be able to download the app on the Apple Store or the Android Store, and all you need to do, and the beauty of it is that you sign in using your account and you have access to all of your records, well, most of your records. The mobile app by its nature is smaller resolution, not as much real estate, so it's a trimmed down version. There's some things that you just can't do, and so it is effectively a light version. But one of the best things about it is being able to be out in the field and update your records. So if you've got connectivity, that's great. If you don't have connectivity, you do have the ability to cache records. So you can save your records, you can cache them, you can go off, you can be offline, you can update them, and then when you come back into syncing range, it will update. So most of the time it works fantastically. There are some tricky areas where if you've got connectivity that drops in and drops out, it can be problematic, but in most scenarios for most organizations, it works without a problem. Western Australia being remote is one of those areas that they probably haven't tested as much as they have in the bigger cities. So in the US, where there's lots of people and high connectivity, it works fantastic. So what I will do is just quickly jump over to this link here, and this will just show you a couple of key settings about when you're in the mobile app, offline preferences, you can choose which records you sync up on your phone. So these are the things where, and you can see here, up to 7 items to access offline. So you know, it's not a full copy, and you don't want to use up all of your phone memory on the mobile app. This is the generic app or the standard app. You do have, I think there's about 10 different apps. I think there's a field services app and a couple of other ones. So you can download those other ones if you have a need. This is to cover the standard user, the light version. You can see down the bottom, so your Chatter, your dashboards, your tasks menu. So this is just the standard app. Other than,
can you access, sorry to interrupt you, can you access custom objects from that, or is that going to be something that's basically the standard default objects?
Kiva?
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a good question. I'm just.
I'm fairly sure, so I don't know for sure, but I think it's only like standard objects.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could be wrong there. It's like a 75% sure.
Yeah, and it would have been one of those things that I would have just updated and jumped into my org, created changed the settings and played around. It obviously it was probably in the instructions, but you know, like who reads instructions? I would just go and play around. And then when it didn't work, I'd yell a little bit, and then I'd go back, read the instructions, and it would just work. So yeah, there are other ways of creating mobile apps. So you can use there's I think there I've got a mental blank, but there's an application that can there's an add-on product that can turn a community site into an app. There is also the ability to use Heroku. So Heroku is something that we haven't really touched on, but Heroku is effectively the platform for Salesforce. So where you have a lot of your hosting, if you want to store, if you want to create a database off platform, it might be a Postgres database or something like that. You might have a high volume commerce site, so a website that sells products, and you have a huge amount of records. You can create an app on there and sync it up with Salesforce. So you can create your custom apps. These a lot of the Salesforce apps by default are almost like HTML containers, so that they're just a view of the website within a solid app container. So you don't get the ability to use the phone features like the camera or the GPS unless it's like the browser. You know how nowadays you can click where my actual location is and things like that. So you can simulate them, but you won't have the accelerometer and those fancy things that you get on a phone that you don't get on a browser. The mobile app I don't think is covered a lot. I think that the offline, having knowledge that it's a trimmed down version of the browser and you have the offline capabilities, I think they are the main topics that would be covered in the exam. I'll have a look and try and find some potential challenges with that assumption. So next week when we run through sample exam questions, I will specifically try and get some gotchas on this area. The other thing that we were going to cover was AppExchange applications. And so when you're going through and looking at Salesforce, if you've got a new requirement that you don't know how it's going to be met, you would first look at standard functionality. The next thing that Salesforce recommends you do is look on the AppExchange. There's no point building something that has already been built. So if we jump over into that org, we click on the waffle, view all, and we go to the AppExchange. So I did that pretty quickly, but you should all know that the button up on the top right is the AppExchange. So Conga, who actually sponsored Quokka Dreaming, they're excellent. So if you want to do document generation, that's really good. My suggestion is that if you want to be hands-on and you want to try, look for the Salesforce Labs. So if I jump into this app, Salesforce Labs have, and is that a link? Let me try and find a link for them. It's probably going to be right in front of me, but I haven't been able to see it. No. Salesforce Labs app let's just do the search. They're fantastic, and some of them are really handy. They're all free. They've all been validated. So you can install these onto an org, play around with them, uninstall them, and they're handy little things. So conference management, I probably should have used that. The Agile Accelerator is pretty good. The adoption dashboards, again, if you want to see how much people are using things, it's great. Trail Tracker, if you want to allocate trailhead badges to people and see how they're going. Mass delete, yada yada. So all of these ones, and you can see all of them are free. They're just handy little tools that they've created. So let's just jump into happy birthday emailer. Yep.
Kel, when you start adding things like this into your platform, what's your sort of assurance that they're going to continue to be, I guess, supported or compatible with Salesforce when releases get released? I mean, what are the risks?
So the risk is that if there's a major change to the objects, they might not work. Most of the time things are compatible, backward compatible, so there are unlikely to be issues. What Salesforce do when they do an upgrade is that they release it out to the owners of these products. They get them to do a test on the org, on the upgrades to make sure that there's any major incompatibilities. Then they get the feedback, they make any of the changes on the Salesforce side, then they release it. Sometimes that, because it's a timed release, sometimes you still have extra releases or patches and things like that that need to go out. That's ISV land most of the time. And if you have a look on this one, you can see it was listed in 2010, the latest release, and it's still working. Part of the reason is because it was designed properly by people that understood. They will be using, and if we go down here, you can see that there's no custom objects. It's all code. So the upgrade won't affect it unless something majorly happens. So any contact that has a date stored as a birthday field on a contact does not have email opt-out checkbox. So from that, I think that, if I was to create that, there would be 2 fields on that. And what this app, what this managed package does is that it will just install and create those 2 fields on that, on the contact object. And it's simple logic. It's probably a bad example to give you for what would happen with an upgrade. The biggest issue that you would tend to have is that if you've installed a lot of applications, there is that limit of 500 fields on an object. So if you're using the standard objects a lot with managed packages, you can really chew through those fields on an object. There's a lot of probably non-best practice orgs where you will cascade your custom object. So your contact object might have contact object and then contact 1, contact 2, so that you can extend the fields. Really not, like there's better ways of doing that. But if you don't know any different, and you're a lone administrator, it works. So why not? But yeah.
Are these developers obliged to, in order to have their products, are they obliged to have sort of validated that it continues to work with the most recent version?
Well, so this one would be free. So you take your risks. You have a sandbox. You install it in your sandbox. You take the risk. The company doesn't.
So there's no vetting sort of done by Salesforce. It's up there, and you can.
there is definitely vetting, but
Yeah.
there is also the fact that they have that safe harbor statement up. They have
Yeah.
a huge team of legal professionals that say, well, we have this platform, we give you the tools, you can figure it the way that you want. And if something breaks, you should have tested it in a sandbox before you moved it into production.
Understood.
Yeah, it's not a great answer, but that's the challenge of having a platform, and this is where the value of partners and a good sysadmin. It's not about putting the Lego together and expecting it to work forever. Every time you have an upgrade, you should be doing some regression testing and just making sure you have those those orgs that are upgraded before the release is actually out. So going through and doing some testing on those. We found out in our local market that isn't prioritized nearly as much as break fix. So, oh, there's a problem. Okay, well, let's go looking around. Okay, in the last update, this permission changed, so this isn't working anymore. Here's a quick workaround. Do you want us to fix it proper? That's what a partner does. They really are the intermediary between the big machine and each of the individual implementations. No problem. And so we'll just go into the normal thing of, I don't know what happened there, like I logged out. So usual thing with disclaimers, just click the blue button as many times as as quick as you can, and it will just all work perfectly. All right, so. Come on. Okay. And obviously I wasn't supposed to stop that because it didn't work. I wasn't gonna, I don't dare read the instructions. The demo guides are not nice to me. I gotta scroll down now. What's going on?
You can't download straight from App Exchange, and they
Okay.
Oh, are you on a trial.org or are you on a dev? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a special trailhead
Yep.
way to do it.
Yep. You used to be able to. So that's right. I forgot about that. But I think that so what do we do? All right. So I'm not going to install it, but I'll let everybody else go away and do it as homework. But you get the, the 3 options, which is install for everybody, install for sysadmins, install for just that user. I think that last one's right. But again, I only really look at the first 2 options. Do I install it for everybody? Do I look at this install it just for sysadmins? And yeah, from there, you find out where you're going. You make sure you install it in the right place. You uninstall it if you don't want to use it anymore, and it cleans itself up. It's coming back to the exam. What I would be mindful for the exam is that whole process of, if a question says something along the lines of, you have a requirement from the business to do something, what should your approach be? Well, it's not standard functionality, so I look at App Exchange. If it's not on App Exchange, then I look at what do I need to do to build it. That was one of my big learnings when I went over to a hackathon in Brisbane, which was, I went straight into building stuff, and the judges, one of the first questions that they said was, well, what App Exchange products do that functionality? I could probably wasn't going to find something, but I didn't have a good answer for it. So finding something that delivers the business outcome in a fraction of the time is great. Quite often what happens though is when you get somebody else's implementation, it's their version of the implementation. So you need to learn another product on top of Salesforce, which has its own limitations and things like that. So the App Exchange is fantastic. It really helps speed things up. There are a whole heap of free tools. Don't forget that you have managed and unmanaged packages. So those managed packages are where you don't have access to update the code. When you have a unmanaged package, you do have access to update the code. So what they will do is that some people release an unmanaged package, which is like a GitHub repository. It's sample code to say, this is how I solve the problem. You can use it, but don't blame us if it's not working. Whereas a managed package is locked down.
It's also that I don't want to pay the $6,000 security check to put it on the App Exchange as well. Just for a small like component you can use in a flow.
Yeah, that's only $6,000, mate. US. You know, like
The cynic in me did wonder if there's a push towards the App Exchange for revenue reasons rather than developing your own.
Well, it's part of it is the reason why people go for Salesforce is the speed to market. So leveraging the fact that there's somebody else that has created it before differentiates this platform to why don't you build it in .NET? So it's the surveys and things like that. The things that just are on this screen here, they're probably going to do about 80% of what you want, and you can have it up and running in a day or less than a day, as opposed to what are your requirements? Let's go and build it. We need a whole team. What are we going to do for post-implementation support? You get to a stage of going, oh, geez, it's only half a day or a day. Let's just be happy with the 80% and get something going. Not saying that that's ideal. The other thing about the App Store is that you've got components and consultants, and I probably should just remove that. So free up the search. So you can see that in here, there's a whole heap of components that you can add to your org. Language switcher, that come in handy. And like world clock, all of those kinds of things, they're not an app, but they're handy little things to install and add to your org. Like the Apple App Exchange and things like that, you can spend a whole heap of time and get lost in kind of installing these things, and yeah, it's really hard to stop once you start installing them, because half the time you don't know what you don't know. So there's an opportunity you might save yourself a week of time by sacrificing a couple of days looking around, but you also might just waste those couple of days looking around. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. The other thing, so components, consultants. So this consultants part is where, and let me just make sure that isn't there. So let's just do the obvious. So you can see that all of these consultants, Salesforce asks us to submit customer satisfaction surveys at the end of projects, so that on the App Exchange you can validate whether a company who is a partner has completed projects, has completed them to a customer satisfaction score, what their capabilities are, what their regions are. So it's supposed to be, if you're looking for another partner, this is where you would probably go. saying that, if you have a look at most of the scores are like Uber, where they're really positive, not in the middle of this. When you go for a job application, you don't usually include the crap references. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
What do
Anyway,
you use for surveys?
so they have when as a partner, you finish a project, you complete a form on the Salesforce side, they send it out. I don't know exactly. I think it's an email. There are 10 standard questions, and yeah, we fill out the form, and then the machine
Out
does
of your
it in
hands.
the
Yep.
background. Yeah, so yeah, that's
Cool.
pretty much it. There are some interesting things, and I probably shouldn't say. It's interesting when when Salesforce send out surveys using Google Forms, or collect data using Google Forms, because that's the free, quick version instead of using their own products. So I probably will edit this out. Oh, that's not Kool-Aid right there. So okay, so on that topic, because I'm talking rubbish now, and we're almost at the end of our allotted time, I will stop record. Anyone got any questions before I stop recording? All right, so I'll stop recording, and then we can ask some proper questions.